Hey everyone, I'm Brad and this is TrailRecon. And today on this video, I'm going to show you some techniques for controlling bleeding when you're out in a remote location. You know, the first thing you want to do in an emergency situation is call 911 and seek emergency care. But oftentimes we're out on the trail and we're out places where there's no cell phone reception and we're far away from a medical facility. And we need to know how to use some very important skills to potentially save someone's life. My experience as a Navy corpsman and an avid off-roader have taught me you never know when the unexpected is going to happen and you need to be ready. So let me show you some techniques for controlling bleeding. Now, the first thing you want to do in any emergency situation is to stay calm. You can't allow your adrenaline and your emotions to take over, which might be difficult. You know, it could be an injury to yourself, a friend, a family member, but you need to be able to stay calm and focus. And carrying a good first aid kit is really important. Now, this is a first aid kit that I built myself, and I'll leave a link in the description to where you can go see all the contents of this, but also leave a link in the description for a MyFac, which is an individual first aid kit where you can go check it out if you don't want to build it yourself, you want something that's prepared all the way. And I'll actually be doing a review of that one in the future. But having a good first aid kit, very, very important. It's also important to make sure that you and your patient are in a safe area. The last thing you want to have happen is something in your surrounding causes another injury to your patient or injures yourself. Having a good set of gloves for universal precautions is a great idea. You know, there are a lot of bloodborne pathogens out there, and if you're treating somebody you're not familiar with, you never know, so it's a good idea to have some gloves just in case. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to expose the wound. We can see that he's had an injury here and there's blood coming from there, but we don't know what's really underneath his sleeve. So having a good set of trauma shears to cut away the fabric is really important. All right, the first method in controlling bleeding is direct pressure. You want to put direct pressure on that wound and really squeeze down for about 10 to 15 minutes to kind of stop the circulation in that area. Now, you can either do it or you can have the patient do it himself. And then grab out your gauze from your first aid kit and put that on there and hold that down. And now when you're holding this down for that 10 to 15 minutes, you don't want to be rechecking the wound because every time you do this to see, oh, has it stopped bleeding, you're going to be pulling off those clots. So you don't want to do that. And then if the wound starts to bleed through, all you're going to do is apply another dressing right on top of that. While you're holding direct pressure, you can elevate the extremity above the heart, and this will allow gravity to slow down the blood flow to the wound. If the blood flow has still not slowed down, another thing you can do is apply a pressure dressing. Now, they sell Israeli bandages, which are great specifically for pressure dressings, but what you can do is just take an ACE wrap and wrap that around right on top of that gauze. And that will help add pressure to that wound. And you can still put direct pressure right over the top of that. But you're not putting this on so tight that it's cutting off circulation. You're just adding another element of pressure directly over that wound. One thing you can do to make sure that this is not too tight and they have enough collateral circulation is check their fingernails. You know, your fingernails should be nice and pink, and if you press on them, they're going to turn white for just a second, but that red color should come right back. Now, 90% of the time, direct pressure, elevation, pressure point, and a pressure dressing, that should stop the bleeding. But in an extreme situation, you can use a tourniquet. Now, a tourniquet is a last resort, and you got to realize that if you put a tourniquet on, there's a good possibility that they're going to lose that limb from below where that tourniquet was placed. So this is a last resort, guys. Now, there's several different types of tourniquets you can use. I carry a cat tourniquet, and you want to place a tourniquet 2 to 3 inches above the wound. And then you want to tighten it down just enough to stop the bleeding. You don't want to go past that. If you start to tighten it down and you see that the bleeding is stopped, you're done, secure it, and leave it right where it is. It's a good idea to mark the time that you place the tourniquet on. Now, once you place this on, you're not taking it off, guys. That's for the medical professionals to do. Now, once you've got the bleeding under control, it's really important to treat the patient for shock. You know, if you lose a lot of volume of your blood, your body can start to shut down. So there's a couple things you can do to kind of help. One, you can elevate the feet above the heart, and this allows all the blood in the extremities to kind of stay in their core. But actually what you can do in this situation is we're on a slope, so that gravity is naturally feeding that blood to the core of his body. The other thing you want to do is keep him warm. You know, when you start to lose a lot of blood, you can actually get kind of cold. And then just keep a close eye on the wound. You know, you want to really pay attention to that and to your patient. Talk to them, make sure they're reassured, let them know everything's going to be okay, and go seek that emergency help, guys. I hope you found this helpful, guys. You know, you never know when you're going to be in a situation where you've got to treat somebody who's bleeding, and applying these techniques can help you save somebody's life. It's really important that you always carry a good first aid kit and you know how to use the tools that are in there. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button. We're going to be doing more first aid videos as we go forward. I hope you've enjoyed this. Until next time, we'll see you out on the trail.